Hello and welcome. This is a special show called Chai Pe Charcha, Pan Ka Kharcha. Basically, chai is something what we are having right now. My friend, it's Indian sports fan, but we have somebody from
Mhm.
Australia, big fan of Australian cricket, and someone who's a big fan of African cricket. Paul, my guest on the show, in my house, Paul Dennett from Australia, one of the best bloggers, one of the best humorous podcasters, and I've got another brain who's visited India twice, and this is his third uh, opportunity to work. And I've known him for some time. One of the best brains. He's actually the fast bowling coach, oh sorry, bowling coach of the Zimbabwean cricket team. Stanley Chiota.
How are you, Sunil?
Absolutely. How was the samosa?
Oh, brilliant. Look, I've had a couple of Indian dishes since arrival, and
Yeah,
obviously my US prior coming to India. So it's always good when you have something brand new. I mean, the samosa is something that is quite popular in Zimbabwe. Anyway, we have a big Indian population, so this is
yes,
food that we have every now
absolutely.
and then.
And when you look at Paul looking so serious and looking at the television screen, you would realize what's happening on TV right now. And I wish if you can turn the stuff around, you will find food on TV, and that's what makes him smile. Paul, your views.
Well,
Food India.
I love the samosa. I've loved every meal I've had in India. But the challenge that I want to put out to you is that no one has made me cry yet. The spice level has been pleasant, but I came here expecting at some point to have tears pouring down. I was in Birmingham once and I went to the same restaurant twice. And the first time I just ordered whatever it was off the menu, but they said you can request the spicier version. And I requested the spicier version. They said, oh, they looked at my countenance and heard my accent and thought that's a bit risky, but they gave it to me, and I had the perfect meal with tears pouring down my pouring down my face just at the end. And so yeah, if the challenge for the next couple of days is to see if you can make me cry.
By the way, your challenge is accepted. You know why? Because in the next 1 hour, after we are through with our stuff, our driver, our chaperone takes you to Old Delhi, gets you to eat the same food that you're seeing on your television right now, and we hope that you cry till the cows come home.
I may well.
But today we are talking about two important issues, but more importantly, it's Rohit Sharma. He came out with a tweet, innocuous tweet. Uh, what do you have to say about it? Give the context and just talk about it.
Well, he's a bit upset about the fact that on a couple of occasions he has had private conversations recorded, and I really, I feel for him because if you were someone at his level of fame, the ability to live your life kind of normally and unmolested would be almost zero. Those private conversations that you can have, you're going to have to absolutely cherish them. And the fact that the official broadcaster has not sort of abided by his wishes, yeah, I can certainly see why he's pretty disappointed.
He's tweeted it for the first time, and he's spoken about uh, how it is an invasion of privacy. Has it ever happened? Just take us back. You're the history man. You've read so many books. Take us through when this miking thing was there, what happened between England and Australia. Just give us a perspective and a context towards it.
Well, I think in the early days of the game, it was a much more innocent game. There used to be there was a huge controversy in 1948 when
48?
when an official photographer took a photo of Don Bradman with King George VI, and it was a casual setting, and it made scandalous headlines at the time because you know what Don Bradman was doing? Something totally unacceptable.
Which is?
He had his hands in his pockets, talking to the king. And this became,
Ah,
and Brad was like, well, I was just having a private chat.
Exactly.
So we've come a long way because that was viewed as something that was unacceptable back then. And then I mentioned on the show today, on Cricket Predictor today, about the stump mic thing, that in 1977-78, when World Series cricket first began, Kerry Packer, the Australian businessman, decided to
yes.
say, let's take it out of the black and white era. Cricket was a sport that your grandparents kind of watched on ABC, the Australian official broadcasting, just the one camera at one end. Let's bring it into the 20th century. And they put the stump mics to the pitch. And I think there was a few initial moments where people sitting at home suddenly heard language that they'd never heard before on a cricket broadcast. And we got to that point where it was almost a requirement, I think contractually, where the sound engineer had to turn the stump mic off as soon as the ball was bowled. So you get the nick, but you don't get the the sledge.
Ah.
But the big one in Australia was during the Ashes, I think it was 2013-14, when they just left the stump mics on. And Michael Clarke didn't know that he was being recorded. And he was having a bit of a chat with Jimmy Anderson, who was batting at the time. And Michael Clarke was eager for Jimmy Anderson to, well, actually just to get on with the game. And he said, go out. And I think Mitchell Johnson was about to bowl. So he said, go and get ready for a broken, expletive deleted arm. And that made major news. And it shocked people. Oh, that's, this is not the game of the gentleman that we thought it was. So, yeah, there's a long history of it. And then more recently, they've actually embraced it about, I think it was when Rishabh Pant's first tour of Australia, they must have told the players, look, every now and again, we'll give a signal. We're going to turn the stump mics up for the entirety of an over and effectively let Rishabh Pant commentate. And there was one of his the sledges that I enjoyed most was, I can't remember who was batting, but there's a half volley outside off stump and the Australian batter kind of just patted it to mid-off. And Rishabh Pant started laughing and he said, he's not smashing bad balls. And he's kind of sledging both his own bowler for the fact there was a bad ball and the Australian batsman. And that's also the series where Tim Payne was chatting away saying, oh, you wouldn't like Virat Kohli. He's your captain, but he's a bad bloke and whatever else. And then also trying to get him to come to the Big Bash and saying, come down to the Big Bash. You can babysit for me down in Hobart. We'll give you a lovely little apartment by the harbour. Come and babysit for me. And then what I loved most was that the next day, Tim Payne's wife, Bonnie, on her Instagram story, featured Rishabh Pant actually holding their baby because there'd been a function and Rishabh Pant was there and it was like, best babysitter. The last thing on the Tim Payne front was the famous one where he said to Ashwin, can't wait to get you to the Gabba, Ash, because we win games in the Gabba. And famously, Rishabh Pant actually himself won the test match at the Gabba. Australia lost the series. First time Australia lost a test match at the Gabba since 1988-89. And I believe, I haven't seen one yet, but I'm looking forward to it, that there are people in India who wear T-shirts to this day that says, can't wait to get you to the Gabba.
Gabba ka badla.
Well, there you go.
I think we should order one. Please order 2 for it. Triple size. Paul should wear it when he goes back.
I think in India, triple size, it's quadruple size to me in India.
we'll get the size as long as the slogan is there. Coming back on the sledging part, Stan, you must have done enough during your playing days. Now you're a coach. You've been to Bangladesh, which is not a very friendly side. And it reminds me of a famous sledge between Indian or Ashes series between Ian Botham and Rodney Marsh. You want to take the honor?
No, I don't think it's I'm not sure it's a family-friendly one.
Batsman came in. The wicketkeeper goes, "How's your wife and my son?" So Ian Botham, yeah. He says the wife is fine, but the son is retarded. That was a quick one. I mean, that was instant response, and it was like a friendly camaraderie. Everybody had a great laugh, and they got on to the game. But tell me, how has the game evolved since then?
Look, at the end of the day, obviously, the rules and regulations that have been put around that.
Right.
But obviously, the majority of it is based on evidence.
Yes.
And like what Paul said, the game is played with the stump mics. They're on throughout the duration of the game. And it's more importantly for that aspect. They want that game. They don't mind sledging. Yes. And it has to happen in a manner
it's a big boys game. I mean, they've been rough. It's like little semi-rugby kind of a thing that they've
True. 100%. But look, there's always rules and regulations that try and make sure that at the end of the day, we're not crossing that boundary.
Absolutely.
It's an unwritten law, it's an unwritten boundary. It's not really drawn as to say you can't do this, but you can't really push it. But at the end of the day, I mean, you then come down to the Rohit saga. I mean, I ask myself, in what instance was he saying these things? Was he in a in a place where it was given authority for. Obviously, for it to be recorded and released in that manner, he wasn't. So already, you now need to we now need to question Rohit in his persona. Rohit, were you in a position to make statements that you fear would be recorded? Because at the end of the day, I think the one thing that people need to understand, and that he needs to understand, is Rohit Sharma. He's a national captain. So what he says is taken as gospel.
Absolutely.
Irrespective of where he is.
I will take you down, and we've asked this question on our show, and we asked Gautam on it, the former Mumbai Indians player. The thing is very clear. He met Abhishek Nair. Abhishek Nair is a first-class player from Mumbai. I think he's played little at a senior IPL level, but he's now the KKR assistant coach. So when they meet in Eden Gardens, it's like friendly camaraderie of 25 years together. He says, "What's happening?" He says, "This guy turned back, Rohit Sharma, and told the official guys who are handling it not to record." I was there very clear in South Africa, and Rohit is a friendly bloke, you know. You remember the day when the test match got over in a day and a half? He's very approachable, very lovely. You speak to him, you'll say, "I like your typical guy," you know. So he turns back and tells this social media guy not to record this. No, that has been recorded. The conversation was about his future between two friends of 2.5 decades talking to each other on a private moment in the Eden Gardens ground. I repeat, in the Eden Gardens ground on the -1 match day. So it was not that they are aware.
Yeah.
They were in the private domain, meeting two friends from different places.
Yes.
And I think the conversation. So what this KKR handle did was to actually put down the, what do you call it, the
Transcription.
the transcription of everything that was said, but wasn't heard. So what they did was they actually played it down, put the transcription, and got it over. It did what it did to the handle and got them wild this thing. Now then they deleted when the good sense happened. KKR deleted, but these guys took it back and they played it again on Star Sports. See, when you do it from a team's handle, is a different thing, but from an official broadcast holder. So it irked many people because it's negotiations. You're talking about money. For a channel, it is just a half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours news. But for a guy who's negotiating, it's his future paycheck involved. So the lives of cricketers have become so intrusive that the cameras are now recording every step, every conversation in privacy of the friends, despite asking Star Sports. Now, this is an important part. Despite asking Star Sports, in bracket, I'm saying the host broadcaster, to not record my conversation, it was and was also then played on air. It was not only recorded, but also played on air. Two different things which we are talking, which is a breach of privacy.
It's a breach of trust as well, because it also ultimately disadvantages the fans.
Yeah.
I'll contrast this with what's happened in Australia with the Test team recently. That there've been 3 series of a documentary called The Test, where they actually had a camera crew embedded with the Australian side for lengthy periods. And the Australian players agreed to this, and we got unprecedented access. When Steve Smith in 2019 got hit and knocked out, and you got to see the reaction in the Australian dressing room. The reason that this worked was that the players came to trust the camera operator, because the camera operator and the editorial crew said, "We want to get behind the scenes footage that's never been seen before to give fans a real insight into what it's like to be in the Australian cricket team, but we're not out to throw you under the bus. You can trust us that if we see a conversation and we've recorded it, that wouldn't look good if it's aired, we won't air it. And if we're uncertain, we'll check." And there was actually a famous scene where in a tight finish to a test match, Justin Langer, the coach, kicked over a bin.
Yes.
And he didn't want that shown. And they said, "But Justin, you then went and picked up the bin and put all the rubbish back in it, which showed you're a decent guy. And we think it shows the humanity of a situation where you're so angry, but at the same time, you still had basic, manners." And Justin Langer said, "Actually, yeah, okay, I will let it in." So there was this kind of, the trust that existed resulted in insights that the public got that they otherwise wouldn't have got. But this, and I've heard interviews with the people who made the show, and they were very aware of the fact that the minute that they were to abuse that trust, that would end it all, and it would be a great pity if that were to be the case. So I think that I think that's an example of where it has worked well, and this is an example of where it hasn't worked so well.
If it was a newcomer, we would have realized. But it is Rohit Sharma realizing every step you take, every move you make.
But then I'd like to say something interesting.
Go on.
Into this.
Yeah.
The moment Rohit Sharma said, "Please do not record,"
Yes.
he sold himself out. I'll tell you why.
Tell me.
That means whatever comes after that statement is something interesting. It's something interesting, and it makes exclusivity.
Oh,
Right?
It's true.
And this is something that
it's preempting.
you're preempting something. Why would you not want to record it? Right? And more so, you are telling Star Sports. Why would you not want to record it? Now, I'm not saying obviously Rohit Sharma had malice in this, but any player who goes to an academy, modern day cricket academies, these are things that you're taught as a player in the academy. You have media lessons, the way to answer, the way to speak in public. You never say no to a journalist when you're answering. You have to answer.
Have you trained your national team to do that?
Every one of them has gone through that, through the academy. It's done in the academy, not at national level, but at the academy. So at this moment in time, like I said, but then the setup of national teams, they have media managers.
That's correct.
If Star Sports was there, then they have to get authority to have access to Rohit Sharma. Where was the media manager?
Host broadcaster doesn't need a media manager. He gets a blanket approval and a blanket access to the player.
Who doesn't need it?
Host broadcaster, Star Sports. In this case, is the host broadcaster.
Yes,
It's not media. It's someone who's in bed with you.
100%. But the team India as a broadcaster, for them to get in touch with Rohit Sharma, they don't get in touch with him directly. They go through the Team India media manager. That's what happens to all national teams. You don't have direct access. You actually get in touch with BCCI. They get in touch with the media manager. They ask for an interview. Can you give us so and so a player? Would like to have an interview with him. In this case, they asked for Rohit Sharma. Rohit Sharma, obviously, somebody gave them authorization to have a meeting with him. Please do not record. That's where, for me, things just went haywire. Why not? Right? But obviously, the aspect of trust. But like I said, it's Rohit Sharma. He's the national captain. Whatever he says is bound to make news.
It kind of touches on the risk calculus for the person who makes the decision to record it and then put it up. Because to them, they think, okay, well, if this goes wrong, oh, well, I get wrapped over the knuckles. If it happens to go right, I can make a name for myself. And that's the thing that it's such a competitive media landscape and everyone's trying to get ahead. People are probably willing to take that risk. And sure, maybe you'll get wrapped over the knuckles, but maybe it will enhance your career. Maybe it'll increase your profile. And maybe an editor somewhere will say, well, look, you probably shouldn't have done it that way. But we got everyone talking, didn't we? And that's where it comes back down to the trust that the overall media organization needs to have enough structure in place to prevent something, someone going rogue like that. That there needs to be an awareness of, we don't want to win the battle to lose the war. We want to go the other way. And in this instance, they didn't.
You make a very interesting point about this thing. I was I was on a tour when I got to know one of the biggest Indian player deciding not to play the series with someone, the upcoming series. Now, for me as a media, this was an absolute scorcher. It was like a screamer of a headline, and I would have been the only guy in India to have done that. But there's a risk. I would have lost my relationship, friendship, because I was not at work. It happened in front of me on a speakerphone, where this guy was talking to the other guy, and I was never a party to it. But if I did that story, I'm telling you today, I would have been one of the most decorated, feared journalists. But I didn't want to choose that path. I think it's when you've got to take that moral compass in mind when you do your professional work. I'm very happy to see and hear something happening here. They said it's mafia that they're getting after the TRPs. Just imagine, why would Star Sports need to do this? They've got all access. They've got all access to the players for everything, pre-match, during match, post-match. Video cameras are not even allowed inside. So
Yeah.
what do we do? When you have a situation where you have all access, why do you need to go
Yeah.
into the yellow part of it? This is something which is not being told. Someone somewhere took that call and said, to hell with it.
Yeah.
What do you have to say?
It sounds exactly right, and that's where, as I was saying before, they needed to have the structures in place to ensure that that didn't happen, and that someone who wants to take that punt doesn't have the access to do that. You need to make sure that there's oversight such that someone who wants to make a name for themselves, that's fine if you want to do that, but it doesn't get to air without an editor looking at it first, and there needs to be checks and balances in place, and clearly in this instance there were.
There has to be some moral compass as well.
True, but you can't rely on that. You hope that's going to be the case, but you need to put structures in place to ensure that even if someone doesn't have that, that's not going to derail things.
I'm going to ask you. He and I have had confrontational professional relationship. He was the media manager at the World Cup qualifiers. I would often ask 1, 2, 3 questions. I'm not supposed to do that. He would put me down all the time. He would guard me. So, do you think it was a place where Stanley wasn't involved in this discussion? You're like the bodyguard there.
Look, at the end of the day, I think in the world of media, okay, there's protocols to be followed.
Yeah.
There's authorization to be given.
Yeah.
There's somebody who gives the thumbs up for things to be released. There's somebody who gives the thumbs up for things not to be released.
Right.
Okay. And look, and this is why I keep referring. It's Rohit Sharma. He's not just a normal figure. This is the national captain of one of the most famous cricket teams in the world. And look, let me just take you back a bit. It's not so long ago that for some reason there was another release of Rohit Sharma having been said to have said something with regards to team selection. Not so long ago.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And do you know what Rohit Sharma's words were?
Yes.
The next time, please make sure you're hearing words from me.
Me, Rahul Dravid, or Ajit Agarkar, who's the chairman of Selecta.
You see now. And hence,
I remember
you
that
tell me.
podcast.
No, you tell me. Now, whoever, journalist, is now in the presence of Rohit Sharma. And Rohit Sharma is saying, do not record. You've told them, but you're not controlling their devices.
Yes.
You're not controlling their devices. You're going to keep record. Somebody kept record. Somebody released that record.
Yes. Very interesting. So, what is the solution?
Well, the solution is that I think that the player should feel comfortable that the host broadcaster, as you said, is not going to do this. And so the host broadcaster needs to have an extra check and balance along the way that before anything gets put to air, someone has...
That's biryani in Kolkata, Arslan. And I know when the Indian... Sorry, we can't not talk about food. So when the Indian cricketers actually reach Calcutta, the call is made to this particular outlet. And they said, please keep 6 plates of biryani ready with eggs on the side and have it delivered to... Go on.
That looks superb. Looks superb.
Next stop, Kolkata.
Yeah, go on.
So, but I suppose you just need that trust. And if the trust isn't going to be... the organisation needs to ensure that the people who are going to be ultimately deciding whether something is put to air, they can implicitly trust. Because I go back to what I said with the test documentary. The owners of that documentary, the ones who had the most to gain and the most to lose, did not want to breach the trust because the trust was so important to them.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that the person in charge of Star would have felt exactly the same way. He or she is not interested in a little scoop like this because that's not what they're about. So they've got to ensure that the people who are ultimately responsible for putting something to air have that same mindset.
Would you do that if you get to know that Virat Kohli is not playing the next series and you get to know at least 5 days before he makes the announcement in the media?
Are we being recorded?
Yes.
I definitely would not. I would take the moral high ground.
That's what I did. It was a conversation between him and his coach.
Yeah.
I happened to overhear it, and not even for once I thought I should do it. It would make me an overnight great Indian journalist. I would make global headlines with my news being there. But that's not what you're going. You are here not to make. See, people like you, me, him are going to be serving cricket or earning from cricket for the rest of our lives. These guys, I think, the content managers are here, are mercenaries and scavengers. Tomorrow, if they get to sell a startup, oil, Pepsi Cola, gasoline, they would jump onto that career. But for us, it's our lives. So we will not risk it.
No, absolutely. And you wouldn't want to destroy a friendship of someone like that, especially someone that you respect. It would be a ghastly thing to do.
Preposterous.
Yeah.
It would be preposterous. Would you do that?
No, Snell, but I'm still. Allow me to play the devil.
Yes, yes, that's what we want.
Allow me to play the devil advocate. What kind of a conversation are you having with the broadcaster that you would go as far as saying, "Please do not record"? What kind of questions are being asked in that? Is it an interview? Is it a meeting? And why are you having a conversation with a broadcaster that you're saying to them, "Do not record"? So that means somehow, somewhere, it's the wrong setup. Perhaps it so happens that the broadcaster is there, but they shouldn't be there. Or perhaps Rohit Sharma is having a meeting with someone, and perhaps the broadcaster cannot move out because it's a broadcaster. They're searching for content.
Yes, yes. Good point he's made. They've got to run the business as well. Many years ago, I'm going to answer your question with what I did. You remember Kapil Dev crying, weeping on television on the match fixing Indian? Yes, no.
I do. I'm not. Yeah.
Can you please play the Karan Thapar thing of Kapil Dev crying on BBC World Live? I'm going to explain it to you how I was involved. I was from the part of BBC World Extended Agency for promotion of the series. There were thick and fast allegations on Kapil Dev that he was involved in match fixing. Karan Thapar was one of the better known TV hosts who's now aging and retired. Um, in 1999, went into the studio. I was the one. I had another journalist, very senior editor with me in the studio itself, and we were recording. And Kapil Dev broke down in the interview, and he broke down for a long, long time. Karan Thapar, Kapil Dev. So it happened. I was in charge of the promotion. We clicked the picture, Kapil Dev BBC. So I was in charge after the interview. It was between us. So we went in a huddle, and I told the guy, I think you should prepare it and promote it because Karan Thapar, Kapil Dev. And we said that we should promote it because the future of that. So the guy who was the anchor took a moral call because it was recorded on a Saturday. We said, let's go ahead and do it. It was a front page screamer everywhere in the world. Kapil down, breakdowns, cry, whatever, whatever, whatever. And but the good part was that he took a moral call. I could have leaked it, but he went against the BBC policy because Saturday, Sunday, those guys don't work. So we had to release it, and it was such a big thing. This one. I was personally present here when it happened.
Wow.
Right? I had the call. And many years later, when he wrote his autobiography, he said it was Sunil who pushed me to go ahead and do it, but I had to take the call. In consultation, I took the call and I went. This was the thing. आवाज बड़ी करना.
They can't see 25 years. They spoil my family life. They forget it. Up till today, when people took the name Kapil Dev, they thought of India's greatest cricket all-rounder. They thought of the captain who won the World Cup. They thought of the man who took 434 wickets. Today, when they take the name Kapil Dev, they also ask the question, has he made money? Has he fixed matches? Does that hurt you? You're clearly under a lot of pressure and stress. What are the emotions going through your heart?
This is the time when Kapil Dev breaks down. I'm standing in front of him. I had a sports editor with me, and I told him, "You're coming in confidence. You're not writing about it. Whatever happens." It was at the beginning. Then Kapil cries. Me and my producer, we start jumping. He said, "We've got this thing." When he cries, we rush down. I have my photographer ready. I click pictures, but I didn't release it till the time I got an approval from him and the guy. Look at this.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the content has been taken. So that's the tricky part, right? Like especially with Rohit Sharma's case, this is actually a sad case, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is with Rohit Sharma, the content has been recorded, you know, and this is where I feel those serious break of trust, not just trust, but the communication there with the parties that are responsible, one for Rohit Sharma, two, Star Sports, for them to end up being in a position where they actually recorded something that has not been asked to be recorded. So,
What was it?
Wow, that's
Closing thoughts.
I thought I'd seen that footage before, but I hadn't. That's actually really extraordinary footage. I think I can't comment on the Kapil Dev
No, not at all.
because
Yeah. It was too. It was too. It was very moving. This moment, standing here, five of us, we felt someone from our family had passed away.
Mm.
Because the way he's crying. If you could switch on the voice, please.
Because somebody who was there only for country, some allegation come out, allegation like that without checking, what? Without checking anything. Don't we have magazine who have enough money to check up before you put it in that third party? Third party. I'm sick of third party.
Couple millions of people are watching you today, not just in India,
I'm sorry.
but all over the world. Let me, for the last time, ask you one question. Can you, for the audience, put your hand on your heart and promise that you are totally innocent?
Do I need to put that? But I want to ask the people. Anybody in my team can say, how much more? I wish I not played the game. Because after you played so much and given your soul, heart, body, sweat, and then you have to hear that I will die before that.
I will die before fixing a mass.
Mm.
I will suicide.
Taking a bribe from somebody. I know I won't think, but I will never do with cricket. And these people want publicity on my account and challenge me. I didn't share my cricket.
This was the headline. Stop it. So, moving scenes, huh?
It's extraordinary. Yeah.
Just imagine me, one of the youngest guys in the room, and he's actually telling me, "Don't do this. Don't click me." But I had a job to do. But I took the job, gave it to somebody who's handling it, and I said, "That's the end of it." And I'm so glad. Many years later, he wrote in his book that it was Sunil's call, and he gave it to me. He could have, gone ahead anyway. But I want to thank that guy who actually was the sports editor, who didn't do it, who didn't do the story, because he'd come on my this thing. But well, that's what we had for last words.
Well, that was confronting footage. Yeah, that was interesting and heartbreaking, actually. So yeah, it must have been. Yeah, I like to pride myself on my knowledge of cricket, and I was aware of peripherally about that. But yeah, I'm interested in that. I'd like to look into it more. But yeah, it was hard to watch.
Absolutely hard to watch, but when you look at the Tinda with his face covered, I think it's the upset stomach or watching that thing. What do you make of that?
well, the footage it's quite compelling in the sense that this is I've never seen this side of Kapil Dev.
No.
I've always being a younger generation compared to him, always revered his playing
Absolutely.
ability, his captaincy, leading up to the Muhammad Azharuddin legacy. These are the players that we learned to follow. But like I said, I've never seen this side, and obviously we can tell that it's something that is really, really in bad blood, and hence you can understand where Rohit
Do you
Sharma is
think,
coming from.
yes, do you think Rohit Sharma would be peeved personally because it's financial stake involved? Let me ask him because you've already played the devil's advocate. What do you think? Would he be peeved if not crying like this?
Well, I think it's nowhere near as serious as the couple dev situation. I think without knowing, I'd imagine it was that he wanted to have a private conversation with someone
Who's
who,
played cricket with?
yeah, and he probably wanted to be able to say, oh, well, how's old such and such a guy going? Oh, it didn't, a bit informal and just to be relaxed and off the record. And he probably felt as though the host broadcaster should acquiesce to his request without any hesitation, and feels as though, and I think probably justifiably, that it's a breach of trust if they don't.
Absolutely. Well, that was it. I think we discussed a very serious topic with historical anecdote from the Don Bradman era to Kapil Dev and then to Rohit Sharma. But these are important times, important questions to be asked. At the same time, I think players have to also make themselves available to the media and not through just their social handles. Because that's one of the problems of lack of trust between the two, that the players will be confined to their official Twitter handle and they'll rarely give out interviews. Well, that was our time. Chai Pe Charcha, Fan Ka Karcha. It's one of the most, it's the cheapest made uh, cricket discussion you find. We have no paraphernalia. We've got poor looking Tatinda who's upset with his stomach. Vaibhav is unwell. Rahul himself looks as if he requires a little bit of cash to make himself up. Tatinda, any passing thoughts? Are you going to Old Delhi for the food?
We'll see. I think the only thing I can add to the couple Dave thing, I've seen him. I can't remember which of the Indian cricket players said that he was involved in match fixing, but I saw his angry response to that, saying that such and such a player, who is he really? They're not as good. I remember that much. I never saw this one. That was more incidents. That was interesting to find out.
Well, that's what we talk about. We talk about history, anecdotes. We talk about factual thing, and that's what it is all about. Please shut it. We're done. We have to go for the food tour.